First of all, the government likes to refer to UFOs by the much broader term UAP, or Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. This is an attempt to avoid all the baggage that the term UFO has. This is, in my opinion, just a word game. I'm not going to take part in this game where we redefine something as something else as a means of manipulating the discussion. So I'll keep using the term UFO even if the quotes I show say UAP. And when I say UFO, I am excluding all the things that people see in the sky that later turn out to be mundane things. By definition, it's not a UFO if you can identify it. Some people also have a tendency to see any government discussion of UFOs as either more evidence of a cover-up or a distraction from other issues. This is a consequence of how little trust we have in our government, that we are so used to hearing lies and misdirection that we are unprepared for any attempt at transparency. We have a document from the Director of National Intelligence that states UFOs demonstrate advanced technology. They can maneuver abruptly, remain stationary in the air, and move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. This quote is from a NASA PDF about UFOs. NASA admits that there are objects in our skies that can't be identified as any known aircraft or any natural phenomena. NASA even refers to them as one of our planet's greatest mysteries. NASA basically says that the only reason why we haven't identified these objects is because we are lacking data, the logic being that if we just had more data, we could explain what they are. In my opinion, more data is always good, but if we look at all the data we already have, we can tell that UFOs can't be explained by any earthly objects or phenomena. NASA also said that they would be willing to accept the possibility of alien origin only when all other possibilities are eliminated. They also said that there is no conclusive evidence that UFOs have an extraterrestrial origin. Well, since NASA admits that UFOs have an unknown origin, we can also correctly say that there is no conclusive evidence that they have an earthly origin either. Let's just start off by ruling out some possible origins for UFOs. First of all, people like to say that UFOs are really just secret advanced technology that the US government has created. There is a massive logical error with this theory, though. The government has released footage of UFOs with the stated goal of clearing up public misconceptions. If UFOs were an extremely secret US project, why would the government confirm that this footage was in fact real and state that the footage doesn't reveal any sensitive systems or capabilities? Lou Elizondo was the director of the ATIP government program for studying UFOs. He made the point that UFOs are a global phenomena, and that other countries like Russia are having the same UFO problem that the US is. Next, people like to say that UFOs are actually from other countries like Russia or China. John Ratcliffe, former director of national intelligence, points out a major flaw in that theory, that UFOs were recording as having hypersonic flight before 2004, back when countries like Russia and China clearly didn't have that technology. If that wasn't enough evidence that UFOs are not created by the US or by foreign countries, we can go back to World War II. Both Allied and Axis pilots saw strange balls of light or metallic discs following their aircraft. German pilots assumed them to be American in origin, while American pilots assumed them to be German in origin. Obviously, neither side was in control of these UFOs, so who or what could be controlling them? I just want to take a second to mention that the gist of Occam's razor is that the simplest explanation that fits the data is usually the best answer. There is government footage of UFOs that clearly demonstrates that they are not man-made or naturally occurring phenomena, so this really leaves us with two possible answers. The first answer being that since these objects are clearly not man-made, therefore something other than man built them. This answer only requires two assumptions, that aliens exist and that they have advanced technology. What about an alternative answer, though? That there is a phenomenon that is not discovered or understood that is naturally occurring and can create objects that resemble artificial craft, but these craft can also sometimes behave in an intelligent manner. This answer requires multiple assumptions to be true and is consequently less likely to be true. Even if aliens are not piloting UFOs, but some unknown force is creating and driving them, that's still a really amazing thing to be happening. You may have seen that a while back, Congress had hearings about UFOs. There were 3 major people that were interviewed at these hearings: retired Navy Commander and pilot David Fravor, former Navy pilot Ryan Graves, and former Air Force Intelligence Officer David Grush. All of the following UFO footage is from the government, and let's listen to David Fravor testify before Congress while I show the footage of the UFO he saw.
A few questions for Mr. Favor. As an expert naval aviator, have you ever seen an object that looked and moved like the Tic Tac UAP?
No.
Did the Tic Tac UAP move in such a way that defied the laws of physics?
The way we understand them, yes.
Many dismiss UAP reports as classified weapons testing by our own government, but in your experience as a pilot, does our government typically test advanced weapon systems right next to multi-million-dollar jets without informing our pilots?
No, we have test ranges for that.
Similarly, this is footage of the UFO that Ryan Graves saw, played while he talks before Congress.
Mr. Graves, again, I'd like to know, how do you know that these were not our aircraft?
Some of the behaviors that we saw in a working area, we would see these objects being at 0.0 Mach, that's 0 airspeed, over certain pieces of the ground. So what that means, just like a river, if you throw a bobber in, it's going to float downstream. These objects were staying completely stationary in Category 4 hurricane winds. These same objects would then accelerate to supersonic speeds, 1.1, 1.2 Mach, and they would do so in very erratic and quick behaviors that I don't have an explanation for.
Okay, have you spoken to commercial and military pilots that have seen these off of our East Coast?
I have.
Finally, we have David Grush. He personally didn't see any UFOs himself, so I'll just use this opportunity to show some unrelated UFO footage while he talks.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
I think David Grush should be put under a little bit more scrutiny than the other people because he is exclusively talking about what other people told him, aka hearsay. With hearsay, it's both much harder to tell if someone is telling you the entire truth and to determine if the people Grush talked to were being entirely truthful to him. Since I can't reliably tell if someone is lying or not, I'd refer to people with more experience to make that judgment. 4 different experts in interpreting body language and behavior watched an interview of Grush, and all 4 concluded that he is probably part of a disinformation campaign. One of these experts, Chase Hughes, even stated that Grush's interview had all the hallmarks of a disinformation campaign, and that he would know this because he trains the U.S. Army on that subject. This doesn't mean that literally everything Grush says is untrue. It means that you shouldn't believe anything he says is true without good proof. This is not a judgment against him as a person, but rather me being extremely skeptical based on my inability to tell if he is being deceptive. It's not as simple as Grush just lying about everything. In fact, I actually have proof that 2 of his core statements are true. Grush filed a report where he stated that people from the intelligence community were essentially inappropriately hiding classified UFO-related material from Congress. Grush also said in this report that he has suffered retaliation and reprisal from sharing classified info with the DoD Inspector General. We also know that the Intelligence Community Inspector General, ICIG, found Grush's report to be both credible and urgent. So this is an independent confirmation that proves that Congress was being left in the dark and that Grush was being targeted for his efforts to expose this wrongdoing. During the original congressional hearing, members of Congress were denied access to a private room, or SCIF, where they could discuss classified information with David Grush. That's not all, though. After a separate closed-door meeting about UFO programs, the representatives Luna and Moskowitz discussed how Congress is being denied any real information about these programs. Representatives Luna and Moskowitz were very frustrated when they found out such UFO programs were so resistant to accountability and congressional oversight. Effectively, the concerns of our visible and accountable government are being overruled by the concerns of a more secretive and unaccountable part of the government. I'm also thankful for both Luna and Moskowitz for highlighting this problem for the American public. Both of these incidents back up with actions, not just words, that Grush's statement about Congress being kept in the dark is true. I want to make one more observation that I think could be really important. You see, because of the secrecy of Grush's job, he needs to get the Pentagon's official okay before he makes any statements about what he knows. Leslie Kean was one of the 2 reporters who gave the original news story about Grush. She mentioned that the second batch of statements Grush gave to the Pentagon, the ones with the most important statements, were given the official okay literally overnight. Kean mentions how really odd this was, and how the statements must not have gone through much scrutiny in such little time. I don't want to end up making baseless speculations, but I think I should mention 2 hypotheses of why this could have happened. The first possible answer being that the Pentagon was being careless and could have endangered national security by such a lack of scrutiny. Remember, Grush saw a lot of classified info during his job. The second possible answer is that the Pentagon had an underlying motive and decided to prioritize this task. Clearly, the Pentagon could have taken all the time it wanted, since this was hardly a pressing issue. So it would stand to reason that they may have an underlying reason for getting Grush's message out as soon as possible. Since this was all a bit complicated, I want to make a quick summary about what we know about Grush. First, judging by his body language and speech during an interview, he is being deceptive, not entirely truthful. Specifically, he may be part of a disinformation campaign. Second, we have independent confirmations that Grush was correct in the fact that intelligence agencies are hiding UFO-related info from Congress. Third, Grush is making some of these statements under oath with the knowledge that lying to Congress or perjury could give significant prison time. Fourth, Grush is making extraordinary claims but not giving extraordinary proof to the public. It is possible that with further investigation or declassification of documents, that they would back up more of what he says. Finally, if people really like this subject and would like to know more, I'll make another video about UFOs. It seems that there is some pretty good evidence out there that the Roswell crash was not just a balloon.